Alright, hi guys, my name is Spilo, and this is episode 8 of First Fight Concept Series, where we look at a first fight in a professional Overwatch game and do our best to learn from that game in a regard of not just how the fight went the way it did, but also how we can pull a concept from it and apply it in our own understanding of Overwatch, and also apply it in our own games of Overwatch. Now today we're going to be going over, again, a game between the Guangzhou Charge and the San Francisco Shock, the same teams from last week. Now, the reason why we're going over this game in particular is we're going to be going over a concept called engagement timing. And engagement timing is similar to how we went over the Chinese contenders team, where it was about adapting your win condition, right? So you play the engagement in a different way. But this sort is not just about how you're playing the engagement, but when you're actually taking the engagement. So playing it to the strengths of, okay, my team is not in a position right now to take an engagement, so I'm going to delay. Or my position is ready, let's go, let's take that engagement. And there's three different things that kind of play into that. And one of those is positions. So sometimes you're going to have players on your team, whether that's a Sombra, Tracer, Genji, Hammond, things like that, that rely on unorthodox positions to be able to contribute. So if you're playing Hammond dive or something into an enemy bunker, and you put pressure onto the enemy bunker before your Hammond's set up his flank and is in position to contribute, then your engagement timing is wrong. Even though you might know that we need to be diving this, that might be correct, but if you're not timing it correctly when your Hammond is prepared, you're going to fail. So unorthodox positions. Second one would be cooldowns, right? So unorthodox heroes that rely on cooldowns in particular. In other words, you just call out, all right, we're going to be pressuring that Widow on the left flank, but your Genji just used dash to get back from spawn. Or maybe that Genji just dashed back from farming from Dragon Blade ult charge, right? So he's not in a position to be able to apply pressure on that Widow. So we have one more, and the third one is ultimates. So some heroes rely more on their ultimates, and sometimes it just makes more sense to play slower when you're closer to ultimates. In other words, maybe you're playing with a Tracer that wants to have pulse bomb when you dive the enemy bunker, right? Maybe you're playing with you're playing with your Ana as a main tank, and she's 91% on nano boost, and if you wait, like, just farm up like just a bit more nano boost, this engagement will go so much smoother. So it's about timing your engagements to play to your strengths based off of your team's positioning, the status of their cooldowns, and their ultimates. And I understand that the communication feels like it's an important factor in this, and it is, but we're gonna kind of give you some cheats on how you can better deal with this, even in comp games where communication might not be important. So back to the San Francisco and the Charge game. So what we see here is the San Francisco Shock are going to be running a Winston Sombra variant of Goats. Now, the Winston here is more for the high ground control. We've seen some buffs to Winston's ability to do cleave damage into armored targets, so that's the obvious reason why. The Guangzhou Charge are going to be running a standard version of Winston Goats, where the Zarya is replacing the Sombra. Now, you look at this and you go, oh, you know, that's fine. These look like close enough compositions. But in reality, the Zarya and the Sombra, when they want to be taking engagements, is radically different. So the Zarya wants to kind of keep things a little bit more fast-paced. And I know that doesn't make sense. Wait, Zarya is a tank. Yes, but think about Sombra. Sombra puts out decent damage, and she can get hacks that you may or may not be able to capitalize off of. But the main reason why people play Sombra is for EMP. So to discussing our three categories earlier, Sombra falls into that third category where she really wants to have that ultimate before your team fully commits to an engagement. Which means that timing a very aggressive engagement when you're throwing a tank composition into another tank composition means you're going to lose the fight if you're the San Francisco Shock. Because the Zarya will be able to immediately use her bubbles, she'll build up really fast charge, and she's going to be melting people right from the get-go. And while Graviton Surge is something that she'd like to have, she doesn't rely on it to be able to contribute a lot to the fight. Whereas your Sombra might be in there putting out some decent damage, maybe she gets a good hack, but if she gets pressured, she has to translocate out, and then you're down one, right? Now you're taking a 5v6. And again, you're not playing the Sombra strength, which is that EMP. So timing your and forcing your engagement early before your Sombra has gotten EMP would be a poor application of engagement timing, and would mean the San Francisco Shock would literally just get run over. So that's very important, and we hope that the San Francisco Shock adapt their playstyle and change when they take their full committal on their engagement.
Surprise, surprise. Bionades waiting. When you see him go purple.
So full committal here, San Francisco Shock are happy to bully him out because the rest of the enemy team is not in a position to force the engagement. So they'll force the engagement onto one target, but as soon as the rest of the charge arrive, you're going to see the San Francisco Shock back out. So Sinatra is doing his best to build up EMP as much as he can. 37%, 40%, 41%, 42%. The enemy team, oh, by the way, this is another good application of the engagement timing. Why is the enemy team not just running through this choke right now? Why aren't they just going through? What are they waiting on? What is the cooldown that they need before they take an engagement? They need Winston Bubble, because even though the Shock might be wanting to play slow too, the Shock are very happy to abuse this choke if they don't have a Winston Bubble, or they don't have full Matrix, or they don't have Nade, but it's most likely Winston Bubble here. So another like little side engagement timing note as well. Farming up EMP, waiting for that bubble. Here it comes. Here's the bubble. So the projected bubble is going to be coming first. Again, notice how the Shock are playing this. They are giving up space. They're not taking a hard engagement on this team right now. They know that they take a hard engagement. Their lack of Zarya, bubbles, and the lack of utility, or long-term damage and utility, or short-term damage and utility that Sombra would be providing would be exploited, would be exposed, and they would lose the fight. So they back off, they give up space. Super just jumps out. He doesn't want to get shield bashed, discord, and killed. They're giving up space, backing up. We've got Sinatra on 50% ult charge. He's got to be faster than that. Come on, Sinatra. Still giving up space. Now, just Shock kind of screw up the rotation here, and they almost get caught by it. At this point in time, we'd want to see Rascal going through this window and rotating this way. We'd want to see Moth wall running this way. We'd want to see Choyobin moving this way. Unfortunately, a couple of them get kind of stuffed in this choke here, and it almost cost them. Now, thank goodness they do manage to climb out and over, but this is they almost get caught here, and the Charge are almost able to force an engagement at this situation. So this was almost really bad for Shock. Sinatra 58, 60%, 70%, 74%, 70, 80%, 84%. The Shock are almost in a position to where they'll need to be able to force an engagement. So all they need to do is Super needs to survive this. He needs to get full HP, and then Sinatra will be able to EMP and win. 94%. Now, Rascal, as I said, takes a really crappy kite path and is really slow in his rotation, so he gets caught out and dies. But even in this situation, EMP is so strong, if Shock can continue to delay like 4 more seconds before they take that engagement, then the EMP is going to win this 5v6. Right? Because Trance is not online. They don't have any support ult. They don't have anything to deal with the EMP. They're going to lose. So they're splitting. Sinatra has EMP. Now is the time. Now is when Shock is happy to take the engagement. And here's the thing. They're actually going to let the Charge force onto them and take the engagement on the Charge once they've forced it onto them, so that the Charge have committed cooldowns. And then, oh crap, we're dead now. Right? Huge. So even though they lost Rascal based off of a bad rotation, we're about to see Sinatra hack, what, 4? 3? There it is. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And watch how many eliminations occur from this EMP. Zenyatta, crucial pick. No discord, no damage. Even the healing utility is gone. He was close to Trance, he's gone. There's the nano boost onto Super. Now they lose Sinatra too, but he's done his job. It's already over. Nano boost has been farmed. That's another talking point when it comes to engagement timing, and Shock really don't want to be taking an engagement until they have nano boost, and then they can send their nano monkey heavily aggressively into the Charge's backline. So now they've got Shu is gone, they've got nano boost, so this is now a 4 versus 5. And then there's the Nade. Nade is nice, but regardless, Eileen is going to be dying. That's another hack target, so he loses his 200 HP, and he loses his bubbles, and he's down 2. And then Hotbutt gets demeched. Okay, and so now there's basically 3 eliminations. Now, you have to think that this was messy. This was not a clean application of the engagement timing concept. And usually in Pro Overwatch, it's never going to be very clean. It's going to be messy because the Charge aren't morons. They're a good team too. And they're going to try and force awkward engagement timings like we saw earlier. And they did catch Rascal off guard. That was them forcing when they wanted to take the engagement timing. But ultimately, the Shock had enough discipline and had enough repetitions of practicing this composition so that they were at least, even though they didn't play it perfectly, they were able to play it well enough so that they were able to take an engagement timing, the full engagement at the proper time. They had nano boost, EMP, and the Charge lose. So obviously, at the competitive Overwatch scene, it's pretty easy to apply engagement timing because communication is something that just happens all the time, right? There's no confusion about when or where or how you want to be taking engagements. People are talking. Okay, let's go now. We got it, right? But that's not always the case in ranked Overwatch, is it? So the question comes in, how can I actually apply, at least to an extent, some of these concepts that we learned in this video in my ranked games? And the thing that you have to apply is personal responsibility. So even though you're not responsible for your teammates, you are responsible for when you are choosing your engagement. When you are the tracer and you are flanking on the backline and applying point pressure, flanking on their Zen, trying to kill their Widow, is your team actually alive? Is your team actually in a position to contribute? Is your team actually in a position to be able to assist you with what you're trying to do? Like, are they splitting attention up, right? And if you're applying backline pressure and then recalling out of the fight and your tanks go in, that's your fault. That's your fault, and you need to be fixing that. If you're a tank and your support is at 85% on her Nano Boost or 85% on her Valkyrie, right, and you're jumping in, going in aggressively when you could have waited literally 5 seconds and found so much more value, then that's you choking on your personal responsibility, and that is you need to be fixing that. If you are the main tank and you're playing into a bunker composition and you're playing it with a Hanzo, and your Hanzo's coming back from spawn and he's too far out of a range to reliably hit a Stormbow onto that bunker and help you with that dive, and you're just diving in, you're like, oh, well, I'm taking a 6 versus 6, Coach Spilo. My Hanzo's alive. But are you really taking a 6 versus 6 when one of your 6 is not at full? So you're not really taking a full 6 versus 6, are you? You're taking a 5 versus 6 because your Hanzo isn't really a full 6 yet. He's not in a position to be able to contribute fully, right? And you don't have to go down the line with each individual hero and find the strengths and weaknesses. That's obviously ridiculous. But look at the big stuff, right? Is your Genji in spawn? Does your Winston have bubble? Are you close to ultimate? Is your, is your Sombra like dueling somebody or doing something else? Like, take your engagements when your team is ready, or as much of your team as possible is ready. Take personal responsibility for engagement timing, and you will find more success in training the game of Overwatch. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up episode 8 of the First Fight concept series. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any additional questions, feel free to join my Discord, link in the video description, and shoot me a direct message. Have a wonderful day.